Welcome to the pharmaphorum podcast. My name's Dominic Tyre, and I'm pharmaphorum's creative and editorial director. In episode 27, I'm joined by Erin McEachran, who's EU Regional Vice President at J&J Surgical Vision. Now, this episode is being published in December 2020, and like pretty much every episode I've recorded since about March this year, the coronavirus pandemic features. So Erin talks about her priorities at J&J, having joined the company 6 months ago, but also how the company has fared during the COVID-19 pandemic, or certainly the acute phase of the pandemic, I should say. The current state of the medical devices sector and some of the trends she's keeping a close eye on also feature in this episode. And Erin tells me about her time on the Canadian national skiing team and how competing at an elite level informed her subsequent business career. You can find more details of this episode, including a download link for the podcast and information about other instalments in the series at pharmaphorum.com/podcast. The Pharmaphorum podcast is also available on iTunes, Spotify, Acast, Stitcher and Podbean, where you can find and subscribe to it by searching for Pharmaphorum. Erin, welcome to the pharmaphorum podcast. I'd like to start off by finding out what was your entry point to the medical devices industry?
Thanks, Dominic. So when I graduated university, I was trying to decide if I was going to go into medical school or get a job, and I realized that I needed to pay some bills. So I started with a company called Stryker Orthopedics when I was young. And it was really my dream job. I got to be in the OR and learn from different surgeons and nurses, and it was a great organization. I worked there for 12 years. I will say, though, I was introduced, because I love sport, at a young age to medical devices. When I was 9, I actually had a disease in my hip, and so I had some pins put in and a long surgery, and I really recovered well out of that surgery, and I wrote my orthopedic surgeon a note to say thank you for his help. And I realized kind of at a young age that how much I appreciated, what these surgeons do and how passionate they are to make their patients' lives better.
And from there, I suppose, bringing up to date, now, of course, with J&J Surgical Vision, what brought you to that company?
Yeah, I'm really proud to join J&J, and I always knew it was a great organization with a really powerful credo. And I really appreciate how diverse the organization is, and I think that's part of the reason we're doing okay with COVID right now. If I'm honest, the other reason I joined is I really wanted to learn from great leadership and continue my career, and I think there's really experienced and exceptional leadership here. And I'm really passionate as well to tap into diversity and talent and have a positive impact there. I think sometimes the medical device sector can be a little bit male oriented, and so I'm really excited to be part of a big organization and hope to have an impact there.
And I'm sure you do. It's important for people just to be able to see the kind of change that they might want to themselves be able to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And you mentioned your love for sport, but of course it went a little bit further than that. I mean, indeed, you really excelled at sport. Can you tell us a bit about your time skiing?
Yeah, so I did ski for the Canadian national team and spent a lot of time outside when I was little. It was a really great sport to be in, and I just want to be transparent. I certainly wasn't the best on the team, and was just an honor to be on the team. I will say, though, it taught me so much. We had a group of girls, and we would travel around Europe, and it was really fun to get to travel, but it also really helped with discipline and resilience. Many of my teammates have had 3 ACL surgeries, multiple broken bones, and I think there's a resilience that you learn with sport, in any sport. And so I'm really glad that I had that opportunity when I was young to compete on a national stage and a World Cup stage to really learn and develop myself. And I think mental toughness, it comes along with sport, and that's something that I really value, and I think I've tried to bring into my business career.
hmm So you've been with J&J since June this year. Can you tell me a bit about what you've been prioritizing since joining the company?
Yeah, so I joined the organization in June, and it's been a wonderful change for me. And at the same time, I haven't been able to meet a lot of my colleagues and a lot of my teams or the people in our organization due to COVID. So that's been actually an interesting time to onboard. We're also going through this pandemic. So my role has really been to lead the team through these changes across ophthalmology and healthcare, and then to deliver exceptional results. I think one of the things I've learned since in the past 6 months is really to understand and listen to our customers, because they're going through, the HCPs that are on the front lines are going through so much pressure and stress, and entering our second lockdown or third lockdown, depending on where you live across EMEA. Just understanding how we can help our customers and support them better, and supporting our people during this time has been a big priority. So I think there's one other thing that's really come out of this time as well, is trying to deepen transparent relationships to become more efficient. I think in the medical device world, we always thought our sales force would be on the road every day and in surgeries. And now that we haven't been able to do that as much, we're looking creatively of what the future can hold and how we can be effective. And I'm also really, really proud. We've been doing some work with value-based healthcare. In ophthalmology, there's a huge unmet need of patients that need support in cataract surgery. And, helping them get access to treatment is really important. And to providing value to our government healthcare systems is also important, because they don't always have, the amount of GDP that healthcare is costing is significant. So trying to provide good solutions. And we've been working on some pilots across Europe, which is great.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we're talking at a time when much of Europe is entering a second wave of national lockdowns. Could you tell me a bit about how you and the company have fared during the COVID-19 pandemic so far?
Yes. So I think actually I'm really proud. I think our team is doing really, really well. I just had a call this morning with our technical service team who fixes the lasers and the cataract equipment. And so they've still been going out to help our surgeons and our hospitals to make sure that if equipment goes down, it keeps going. And so I'm really proud of them, and I'm really proud of the teams. They've kept a great positive outlook. We've been working really hard on professional education, and I'm a big proponent of education. I think it's really important. Doing lots of virtual webinars for younger surgeons and new products that we're launching. And it's been really great just to see the interaction, especially across EMEA with different demographics and different areas. It's been really exciting. And we've had really good uptake. So there's been a lot of surgeons that have joined those sessions.
And certainly where there's so much change at the moment, throughout 2020 across so many different aspects of our lives. But as we look at maybe how J&J and you and your colleagues have adapted to COVID conditions, are there elements there that you think will be of use for the future when we return to some sense of normality? I'd be interested to hear how far back do you think the pendulum's going to swing to business as usual pre-COVID, or are there aspects of how we've all adapted to the pandemic conditions that are here to stay, do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm not sure I know the answer exactly, because I think the future, it'll be interesting to see what the future holds. I think, though, there've been some great efficiencies and things that we've learned. There's a lot of discussion around how we do things more effectively, prof-ed, without traveling. I think that will be good in our future. I think everyone has time constraints, and I think we're getting more creative and looking at things like virtual reality and digital impact, how we can really prioritize those elements for our customers. And I think the one thing that I've really enjoyed, and the priorities coming out of this, is just to really have an open and transparent relationship with our customers and try and learn from them as they're going through these challenges, so that we can better adapt models for the future. So we're experimenting with some things, and I think they will stick. And I'm hoping it'll be a hybrid. My hope is that we still get to be in the field but that we learn to be more effective and efficient. I'm hoping we can do both those things.
It's certainly a reminder at the moment when we can't meet people face to face. We can't have those kind of interactions that, whilst maybe some of the travelling that we might all do can be avoided. There's a real value in just being able to have face-to-face conversations and interactions that unfortunately we're all missing at the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree. I can't wait to see some people soon. I'm really looking forward to that.
Sure. So you were talking a bit about your early time in your current role at J&J. Looking back at, it certainly sounds there's a lot of lessons that have been learned or you've been putting into practice indeed over the last 6 months, and that's around about that sort of magical 100 days. In a new role that we'll often talk about. But if we look beyond the first 100 days or 6 months, so what are your long-term goals at J&J?
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm learning a lot, and I'm really impressed. I think the future of J&J and the business is the innovation that they're delivering right now within ophthalmologies. And I believe that the PCIOL segment and cataracts, there's room to excel in both, and our R&D team are doing some really exciting innovation, and there's really good clinical data that's emerging, and that's really exciting because that proves what you think is right. It's great to see that data. And I think that our R&D team is also looking at, game-changing innovations and stuff that I can't talk about or know about at this time, but I really trust them, and that's truly exciting. We did launch 2 products this year, the Tecnis Synergy Toric 2, with the Simplicity delivery system, and then the Catalyst system, COS 6.0 software, and that was for astigmatism management. I think there's a lot that we can do with astigmatism, and I think that's a big bright spot for us. And I know that there's a good pipeline coming. So I think looking at eye health and the continuum of care across the whole spectrum of ages will be really important, and making sure that our team in EMEA is fully behind this will be really powerful.
And looking at how J&J's surgical business and, I suppose particularly eye care and eye health has fared during the COVID pandemic, of course we've seen massive diversions of healthcare resources to emergency use. An awful lot of different types of healthcare has unfortunately had to be put on hold or moved into other settings. What does that mean for eye care, both on a business level and then also on a patient level as well?
Yeah, I think from a business standpoint, COVID has obviously had impact on J&J and other organizations and ophthalmology as a whole. And I think this is due to elective surgery. I think that's one of the things that unfortunately gets bumped, and especially among the elderly, which is really tough with the cataracts, right? So I worry for that. At the same time, I know a lot of hospitals have tried to reopen a lot of lists to get extra patients through, which is fantastic. The one thing as well that certainly I think many of us feel, the pandemic has given us kind of space and time, not on flights and maybe not traveling in our cars, to really pause and take stock. And I think without the crisis, we maybe wouldn't have done this. So I think there's been some really positive things that have come out of it, and thinking, are we being as strategic as we can? How are we helping our people? Can we do more there? How can we be more effective, globally with the cataract market share? And how do we be more bolder about our strategy and helping customers through the pandemic, and focusing on patients? So I'm actually really grateful for that. And I think that's been good.
And so, Erin, I'd like to finish up this episode of the podcast by drawing on some of your expertise about the medical devices sector, and we'll just get your thoughts on what are the key trends that both you're looking out for at the moment, and that our listeners should be aware of in medical devices.
Yeah, I think there's kind of 3 key areas that across the device sector that seem to be important right now. I think the one which maybe isn't as innovative as you would think is really just being, from a timing perspective, being more efficient throughout hospital care. And I think that's just as important as innovation. So you can see that there's a lot of value-based care and efficiency programs that are coming in many different specialities. I think the second thing that's really exciting is professional education and delivering marketing more digitally and looking at virtual reality and how we become more effective with technology. And I think the third trend, if I had to summarize, robotics is obviously really important and it's been around for a while. But I think there's a need to make sure whether you have robotics or not, but for a consistent procedure and a consistent patient experience across the board in every specialty. So I think those are three of the things that I'm excited about, and I know J&J is looking at all of those and progressing well, but I really think those are three things to be excited about.
Thank you very much, Erin, and thank you very much for joining me on the Pharma Forum podcast.
Thank you very much, Dominic. Really appreciate your time, and thank you for having me today.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of the Pharma Forum podcast with Erin McEachran on J&J Surgical Vision and the medical devices sector. You can find more details of this episode, including a download link for the podcast and information about other instalments in the series at pharmaforum.com/podcast. The Pharma Forum podcast is also available on iTunes, Spotify, Acast, Stitcher and Podbean, where you can find and subscribe to it by searching for Pharma Forum. And don't forget to visit our website to sign up for daily or weekly email pharmaceutical news and analysis bulletins, and follow us on Twitter, where we are at Pharma Forum.